We're out in the field with a Tech Tips update. This is Brad Rudin, Director of Agronomy Tech Services at South Dakota Wheat Growers. I'm in the field today looking at a later stand evaluation. You should say that earlier we should have been out here looking at stand evaluation right when these came through the ground, and you're absolutely right. However, now at this V4 to V8 growth stage, depending upon where you're at, is an excellent time to go out and really take a look at planter issues. And in this field, we have a good example of that. As I pan down this row, all of a sudden we'll find this very, very small plant here and another plant right next to it that actually literally is tipped over. And if we look at this plant, we find that the seed just barely was into the ground, just barely below the trash layer. This next plant, the same way, the seed is right there, right below the trash layer. But as I scan down this row slowly here, then all of a sudden we'll see some plants that had a lot better plant development down this row. If we look at what happened with those plants, the seed depth still wasn't tremendous, but it was about 1.25 inches deep. So what we really have as an issue out in this field, it looks like, is that we have lack of depth control on the planter as it was putting the seed in the ground and it rode up on top of the trash. And for some reason we didn't get the trash moved out of the way and get seed to soil contact down in that 1.5 inches or better depth that we really like for corn planting, 1.5 inches being actually on the shallow side. But in this field, the seed depth varies from laying right on the surface of the ground to about 1.25 inches deep, and it's just not adequate to get the excellent plant growth that we want to get these plants off to an early season start. You can also notice that on these plants here, because of the shallow rooting, we're getting a fair amount of striping on these plants here, which is a sign of some micronutrient deficiency, maybe even some sulfur deficiency that are in these areas. We would need a tissue test to be able to determine that exactly. But a lot of this is just coming from lack of root development under these plants because they are so shallow. And we'll continue on with looking at a few other planter issues here, but now is a great time to be evaluating what's happened with your planter and looking at upgrades that you might want to consider with our precision planting specialists from South Dakota Wheat Growers, and looking at what we might want to do to be able to improve that planter so that we can get the excellent performance that we expect out of those planters each year.